I'm Tad Flaky,
I'm Lilibet Flaky.
and this is Pointless Global News. On today's show, it's official. Science confirms it's okay to breathe through your butt.
Then get ready to have nano-bots crawling up your nose to relieve sinus issues.
Next, I'll tell you about Norbert, the skateboarding pig, and the record he broke. That story is coming later, but first, take a deep breath, hold it in, exhale. Now do the same thing through your butt. Well, you obviously can't do that because your lungs are hooked up to a different orifice. However, a recent scientific breakthrough has demonstrated that breathing through your booty is not only possible but safe. Butt breathing doesn't involve drawing air in through your back door, however. Instead, it works by pumping an oxygen-rich liquid solution into the intestines. Your guts will then absorb the oxygen and distribute it throughout your body. At least that's the theory, but the method had only been used in animals. And now that's changed. A new study featuring the first ever human trial of internal ventilation has shown that the method can also be used safely on people. In theory, butt breathing could be a life-saving procedure in medical cases where the patient's lungs are shutting down. However, further testing is still needed before it can be determined whether a person can absorb enough oxygen this way to sustain themselves without their lungs. Still, we've entered a brave new era for humanity. We can not only talk out of our asses, but breathe through them too. When you think about butts, the only air moving there is usually going out, not in. A new study recently published in the journal Med is blazing the trail for new things to do with our ass. Namely, it showed that it's possible and medically safe for a human being to breathe through the anus. This method of respiration is known in the medical realm as internal ventilation. It works by pumping an oxygen-carrying fluid called perfluorodecacolin. Did I say that right? I think I did. Speech therapist on my left.
Perfluorodecacolin.
Perfluorodecacolin. I'll try my best to do that correctly. Perfluorodecacolin. That's what needs to be pumped into the intestines to make this work. From there, the guts will absorb the oxygen and infuse your blood with it, much like the lungs do. The oxygen spreads throughout your body and keeps you going, even if your lungs are failing. Earlier studies by the same group of researchers have shown that butt breathing is effective in treating respiratory failure in animals. But would also work for humans? Would it? Well, does butt biology make it even possible, or maybe even dangerous? Well, now we know. The initial results were promising. We found that interrectal administration of perfluorodecacolin up to 1,000 milliliters was safe and well tolerated, with only mild and transient gastrointestinal symptoms such as bloating. Increasing the amount, however, to 1,500 milliliters did make test subjects uncomfortably bloated. So the sweet spot is 1,000 milliliters of perfluorodecacolin, completely filling the person's large intestine, which should, in theory, be all that you need for maximum oxygen absorption. So we now know that it's medically safe to fill your rear chambers with the oxygen carrier. Next, the researchers have to figure out whether you'll actually suck up enough amounts of oxygen through your guts to make the method functional. The next phase will involve testing oxygenated perfluorodecacolin in patients with hypoxemia. Hypoxemia. Thank you. Hypoxemia. Hopefully that word won't come again, but who knows? So they want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So they'll be evaluating the actual oxygen transfer efficacy. We are currently planning a phase 2 trial in collaboration with clinical partners in Japan and the U.S., Takabe said. But why are these scientists trying to get a person to breathe through their ass in the first place, you might ask? Well, imagine a scenario where somebody's lungs are failing, but the ventilation machine they require isn't ready yet. Butt breathing actually could be a lifeline in this scenario. The researchers emphasize that it's not meant to, and probably can't, replace ventilation machines, but it could provide a literal backdoor to keeping someone alive until they can be hooked up to artificial lungs. In such cases, intestinal oxygen delivery could serve as a bridge therapy until normal respiration or full ventilatory support can be established. The team's efforts have attracted attention both from scientists and the general public, with the latter mostly snickering about the thought of butt breathing. Yet, Takabe's team received the 2024 Nobel Prize in Physiology for their project. Pretty impressive. You can't help but wonder, though, what other marvelous things could be possible if science could unleash the full power of our behinds?
Well, the most important part of this is not your anus or your rectum, but it's your intestines' ability to absorb oxygen. And our intestines are amazing things. They even talk about us having a gut brain, which can communicate with your brain up in your head. So I think it's very exciting and
It
promising.
truly is amazing.
We'll see what happens with that. Your nose is now a robot launch pad. Good luck explaining that to TSA. In a bold attempt to make your head both clearer and considerably more dystopian, scientists in China and Hong Kong have created nose-invading robot swarms small enough to be mistaken for dandruff, but with aspirations of becoming the next Avengers. These micro-robots are injected into your sinus cavities using a device that looks like it came from either a dentist office or a war crimes tribunal. Once inside, they're guided by electromagnetism, a magnetic field, and sheer spite. Once deployed, these bots heat up and break down bacteria with a chemical cocktail more reactive than your ex on Valentine's Day. This means antibiotics may finally be replaced with targeted nose assault squads, which is terrific news for bacteria who now know they're up against the micro machine version of SEAL Team 6. Trials in pigs and rabbits, aka nature's unwilling interns, showed no obvious tissue damage, which is science speak for we didn't explode anything important. Plans are in place for human trials once someone draws the short straw or loses a bet in med school. Potential side effects include robots forgetting to leave, a sudden urge to Google how to become a Faraday cage, deeply suspicious relatives whispering about government tracking via nostrils. Critics have raised ethical concerns about inserting metallic squads into one's face holes, citing that people might not be ready for this level of intimacy with robots. These critics are expected to change their minds once robots can remove hangovers or tell your in-laws you're not home. On the bright side, no more sinus infections. On the weird side, your nose might someday demand USB charging, and yes, they do get sneezed out at the end. Probably, maybe, hopefully, before they unionize. You know I love robots, and these are nanobots, and they are definitely going to be deployed and used in a lot of new medical, biological
And I'm
interventions.
assuming they're one-time only use. You couldn't disinfect them and use them again.
I don't, if you could round them all up, maybe you could, but here's the problem. Your sinus cavities are so close to your brain. What's to stop those little nanobots from going just a few centimeters up and taking over your mind?
Elon Musk would love that. He could bury one of his chips by doing that.
That's exactly what people should be worried about.
Yikes.
Those little nanobots invading your brains.
Yeah, well, we're going to wrap things up here with a story about a perfectly poised pig from Illinois who broke a Guinness World Record by showing off his skateboarding skills. And it only took a 33-foot ride in just 11 seconds. Norbert the pig from Buffalo Grove, Illinois, earned the record for the fastest 10 meters pushing a skateboard by a pig, managing the feat in 11.32 seconds. Vincent Moran, Norbert's owner, said he discovered the pet pig's impressive talent when he found his old skateboard. I had my board from when I was a kid, and I figured I'd try him with it, he said. I went outside, laid the board down, and took out some unsalted peanuts as treats. In about 15 minutes, I had him standing on the board. A couple more sessions, and he was pushing himself down the street. Barron said that the 175-pound Norbert now looks like a natural on the board and loves showing off his skills. After a handful of sessions, we finally hit the sweet spot, and his run went perfectly. He said Norbert earned the nickname Tony Pork in honor of the legendary skateboarder Tony Hawk. I can just picture that pig rolling down the street. It probably would be absolutely amazing to watch. But then again, my choice of viewing sports is perhaps somewhat unique. In any case, that's going to be a wrap for another Pointless Global News.
I got something to say about this story. Excuse me.
Stop the recording. No,
Excuse
I'm
me,
kidding.
Tad.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I just want to know why there is even a record for the fastest 10 meters pushing a skateboard by a pig. Why? Why? We could be using our time to discover a cure for cancer. We could be using our time to do all kinds of things and not setting records for pigs doing the fastest 10 meters on a skateboard. That's all I have to say.
It's called reality show entertainment.
Okay.
Guess, for what it's worth. And there's a lot of that going around. Some of it is needed. Some of it is pointless. And that's why we have it on this podcast. And that's going to be a wrap for this podcast called Pointless Global News. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tad Flakey.
And I'm opinionated Lilibet Flakey.
Stay pointless, my friend.